Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to share their work. Um, this week, Blick is up first. Put the link in the chat.
Okay, this is a fracas that I published a couple of days ago. And it starts off with a Steve Jobs quote. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, it's also based on that great, if you pull it up, it's the whole thing is based on something I heard Lou Reed say once in an interview, and this great painting called Arrested Heart by Francesca Schwartz. All right. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Last words of iPod creator Steve Jobs. Name of this piece is Pumped Up for Next Gig. I don't remember any of my previous incarnations. This one just ended with the sound of my heartbeat replaced by booming defibrillator jolts. I can hear being zipped into thick plastic, but I am not afraid. Aimless transmigration drifting will play no part in my future. I should have read this beforehand. I don't understand why I came back as a drummer, an impoverished, financially unsuccessful percussionist, ridiculed for a passion that labels me a bum, a perpetual adolescent, irresponsible and selfish. But creating music by pounding those stretched skins till they vibrate me into mysterious intervals of bliss is an addiction I never want to kick. I've never considered myself religious or spiritual at all, but now that my gig has ended, I realize I spent my 47 years on earth as a priest. What exactly is this penetrating mystical bliss? Bliss? I shouldn't have smoked before I came. What exactly is this penetrating mystical bliss? I cannot define it. When words and intellectual thought cannot describe a thing, it's called a mystery. That's why they created the word God. God is a musical term for irrational explanations of sacred truths. We are all born musicians. The time of my inception, mom's heartbeats were the first organized rhythmic sounds I heard. 4 months inside her womb, I joined her with my own echoing heartbeats. And then I pulled away to create my own unique beats and rhythm. This micro-maternal drum circle is joined by millions of other heartbeats celebrating the creation of it. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, this isn't the right track. Oh, that was an earlier. I printed out an earlier draft. All right, never mind. I'll forfeit my.
It's okay, Blake. It was similar, right? But like, why did you?
Yeah.
This bit, actually, I've got a question for you now, since you were reading an earlier draft. Why did you cut micro maternal drum circle? That was a fucking amazing turn of phrase. Why did you cut it?
Well, because this thing was originally, it got down to about 750 words, but originally it was about 1,600.
Oh.
And so I kept slicing and slicing and slicing it. And I like that, except it was I went on such a long riff about it that, but all right, can I try to read it from this?
Sure.
From this thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no.
You want to read your earlier draft?
Yeah, the shorter one. This one I just realized is like, all right, let me see if I, okay. I don't remember any of my previous incarnations. This one just ended with the sound of my heartbeat replaced by booming defibrillator jolts. I can hear being zipped into thick plastic, but I am not afraid. Aimless transmigration drifting will play no part in my future. I don't understand why I came back as a drummer, an impoverished, financially unsuccessful percussionist, ridiculed for a passion that labels me a bum, a perpetual adolescent, irresponsible and selfish. But creating music by pounding on those stretched skins until they vibrate me into mysterious intervals of bliss is an addiction I never want to kick. I've never considered myself religious or spiritual at all. But now that my gig is ended, I realize I spent my 47 years on earth as a priest. I cannot define this mystical bliss. When words and intellectual thought cannot describe a thing, it's called a mystery. That's why they created the word God. God is a musical term for irrational explanations of sacred truths. We are all born musicians. At the time of my inception, Mom's heartbeats were the first organized rhythmic sounds I heard. 4 months inside her womb, I joined her with my echoing heartbeats, and then I pulled away to create my own unique beats and rhythm. Musica Humana. Bookended between the first beat I heard from my mother's heart is the final beat I heard from the artificial rhythm of a defibrillator, tuning me up for my next incarnation. It's a much slower, angrier beat. When it couldn't tune up the instrument called my body, I am discarded. Defibrillator is electronic music, a no-no for true musicians who spurn the use of living drummers in favor of techno drum machines. Defibrillators, not Schoenberg or Stravinsky, are responsible for the atonal music of the spheres. Mom hated me becoming a musician. She said I'd end up poor, drug addicted, and a wasted life. Yet she loved music and streamed it so often it most certainly inspired me to take up drumming. I've never felt closer to her as when I replicate her heartbeat with my sticks. Every time I pounded or brushed those skins, I now see I was paying homage to my mother and the in utero cadences she bestowed upon me. As a drummer, I am the heart of a band's rhythm section. Heart arrhythmia are irregular beats, which I've done plenty of times on stage and while jamming with other players, though I call it musical experimentation. Strange how we never know during our life how often we are rehearsing our death. My heart arrhythmia is genetic. The same musical rhythm from Mom that gave me life also killed me. All lives are musical compositions and decompositions. Does the tune end abruptly like a song at a live gig? Or does it fade away through artificial manipulation, like a recorded song that doesn't know how to end, so it keeps getting fainter and fainter until it slowly disappears? Should one just keep going as long as mechanically possible? Or should one issue a DNR directive in order to cease and desist? Sound waves never truly disappear. They just keep getting weaker and weaker until they transform into thermal energy units, which are eternal. That is the true definition of human harmony we call soul music. There is no single moment of death, but a series of mini deaths. Hearts continue to beat after breathing stops. Skin cells remain alive several days after death, so we can trade in our worn drum kit for a fresh set of skins. It's a reverse audition where the drummer doesn't try to get accepted into a group, but decides to join a new human group with which to ignite innovative and invigorating percussive riffs. There is a white light at both ends of this tunnel, but they are simply stage lights that can really be a pain in the ass when performing. I pound my way through them, even though it's hard to see fellow band members and my audience. But this white light has dark shadows sprinkled within, and these are musicians hoping I will jam with them in our next life. I am sandwiched between the white theatrical lights of past musical performances and future ones as I inch closer to a new incarnation and my next gig.
That, excuse me, that killed Blick. I love the entire piece is this wonderful extended musical metaphor, and it's so effective, and there's so many like wonderfully like harmonic turns of phrase, right? Like I put a few in the chat, but oh my God, there's no single moment of death, but a series of mini deaths, I think is incredibly effective. The entire paragraph that starts with like, as a drummer, I'm the heart of the band's rhythm section. But I will say, Blick, if you get another shot at this, you have to put that micro maternal drum section back in, because that's such a good turn of phrase. And it's sad to see it lost.
Yeah, I want to second that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, maybe I just have a confession to make that when I was a teenager in the Bronx, I was kicked out of 2 bands as a drummer. One was called The Agitators, and the other one was called The Third World. Right,
damn, to get out of The Agitators, you must have been a real pain in the ass. Thank you, Blake.
You've been real agitated.
Thank you, Blake. Up next is, oh shit, I lost my spot in the document. Up next is Keith.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Loud and clear, Keith.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, well, I appreciate the chance to read more of this story I'm working on. It's still a work in progress, and it's an experimental piece of writing I'm doing. Since the last time that I read a couple of weeks ago, I've come up with a working title and subtitle for the story. And I've also added a preface to the beginning. And I'm gonna read those tonight, begin by reading that tonight. And then I'll move into the new stuff with a little bit of transition from a few lines from last week. So I may pause and have to take a drink of water during this. The title is Living and Dying in the Now and Then, the Surreal Life of an Aspiring Writer. Preface. In September of the first year of the pandemic of 2020, he reinvented himself. After cleaning out his closets, he found a new community on social media, the world of alt-lit and outsiders. Inspired by the stories and poems he read, he decided to write a poem. It was the first poem that he had written since high school, many years ago. It did not follow the rules that he had been taught in school. He titled his first step into his newly discovered world, Epilogue. And he might write more poems, and maybe even some stories about his new life and his old life too. He will think about that. Epilogue. Age is just a number until it's not, and infinity becomes finite, and immortality becomes mortality. And then the end is in sight, and the game is almost over, and you don't want it to end. And the happiness that you find is in the eyes of those closest to you, for the hope and promise for the future is with the young. October 15th, 2020. But what he was trying to say before this rambling was that he really wanted to be a good writer. And he was picking up lots of tips and advice from his new writer friends. And since he was always looking for and taking pebbles from their hands, he decided to see how he was doing with his story according to the internet. So he Googled how to write a short story. And the more he read, the more he realized that he wasn't doing much of anything right according to Google. But then that's the internet. And what does the internet know? And then he remembered Henry saying, and this is not his roommate, Henry, but his favorite writer, the Tropic of Cancer, Henry, saying that if he was writing for the masses, then he was doing something wrong. And with that, he knew that he was right on track, and his writer friends were right on track. And he felt really good about his writing. And then he put his phone down and went back to sleep. He needs to get back to his story, but he can't quite stop thinking about this writing thing. And he needs to tell a quick story, so he'll just get to the bottom line. And that is that he hasn't been writing for very long. And what he's done so far on his story is his longest writing yet. And when he writes the word yet, he thinks that's a great segue into these two really big books that he got a few months back that have yet in their titles. And he started reading the first volume, and he got bogged down really quick and knew that he was in big trouble when he spent half an hour trying to figure out a short paragraph. And since he didn't know the rules of direct messaging, and he didn't really care, he slid right into the DMs of the indie press publisher who wrote the books, and who he will just call the man. And he pleaded for his help. And the man was really very understanding and consoled him and said that some things aren't expected to be intellectually understood. And the man told him to just ride the snake, dear reader. And that was a really cool exchange. And he thanked the man. And afterwards, he went to Urban Dictionary and learned all about riding the snake. And it triggered thoughts of his first experience with a bong. And what he realized from that experience was that he did not have the necessary restraint that it would take for him to manage his cravings. And we'll just end things there for now. There's a sinking feeling in his stomach, a slow drip resonating in his head. The doors are locked and everyone's quiet. He listens for footsteps and hears only crackles. His mouth is dry. His hands tremble. He follows directions. He thinks he hears a burble. He is relaxed. His hands are calm. He feels good, really good. He's on the dark side of the moon. It's a happy place. He wants to live in the dark forever. His reminder came today like it has for years, but now it doesn't come as often, but it always comes. And it always serves its purpose of him remembering that chilly spring day and how he was briskly walking beside the tall brick building with the heat of the setting sun and warm bricks radiating on his sweaty body. And inside the building in a locked room, the colors of the American flag would hang from a pole. And then in a few years, he would live his dreams and nightmares beside a creek on a cold winter night with his friends and enemies, and beams of lights illuminating the stage where the three-act play would be performed with a backdrop of silky Spanish moss hanging from the trees and unfamiliar scents wafting from near the stream bank as the blackest of black icy waters flowed by and reflected their images. And almost everyone was frolicking and having a good time. And no one foresaw what the future would bring or the lifetime of memories that awaited them all. And in a few months, his reminder will come again, and he will remember how it all started on that chilly spring day. When school let out for the day on that fall afternoon, he could barely contain his excitement and anticipation as he walked home as fast as his legs would go, and he was carrying with him in his briefcase his two new scholastic books. And one of them was hidden in the trifold section of his briefcase. And when he got to his house, he went in the front door and walked past his mama, and he told her that he had a lot of homework and he had to go get started on it. And she smiled at her special boy. And he knew that he was getting too old for her to hug him. And he could see that she was holding a vodka tonic in one hand and a cigarette in the other. And he saw that as an opportunity. So he quickly darted up the stairs and into his bedroom, closing and locking the door behind him. And then he opened his briefcase and got his two new books out. And his new poetry book was titled Reflections on a Gift of Watermelon Pickle. And his really dangerous book that he had hidden in the trifold of his briefcase was titled How to Be a Nonconformist. And he sat down on the floor at the end of his bed near his closet, and he began reading his nonconformist book as fast as he could until a little while later his mama knocked on his door and he felt his heart skip a beat. And he quickly and quietly put the nonconformist book under his mattress next to his well-worn Playboy magazine that his next-door neighbor girlfriend had stolen from her older brother's collection and given to him, and they would hide out in the playhouse together and look at the magazine. And then she told him that he should take the magazine and keep it under his mattress, and they could find other things to play with together. And so he grabbed Watermelon Pickle and was holding it in one hand, and he used his other hand to unlock and open his door. And his mama smiled at him with a puzzled look when she saw what he was holding. And she said that plans had changed and they weren't going to go to his grandmother and granddaddy's for supper. And he already knew that because he knew that now she had a fresh drink in her hand. And he was suspicious when he saw her drink earlier. And now he knew for certain that supper plans had changed because his mama would never have two drinks and then go be around his grandmother. And he knew too that his mama would never even smoke around his grandmother. But since so many people smoked in those days, that to smell like cigarettes did not even raise an eyebrow or create any suspicions. And then she said that she was going to go fix supper. And he knew that would take a while because this story had played out many times before. And he was taking lessons in how to play all of these games. And then his mama left him, and he could hear her going down the stairs as he was locking his door. And then he walked by his desk and set Watermelon Pickle down. And then he turned towards his bed, and he got his well-worn magazine out from under his mattress. And he laid down on his bed, and instead of going through his routine and opening his magazine straight to the centerfold, instead he went to an article that he had read many times, and it was about surrealism and Salvador Dali. And he started reading the article and studying the drawings. And this time it really struck a chord with him. And just a short time later, he realized that he was at a crossroads in his life. And it was then that he decided that from that point on in his life, that he was going to be like the surrealist, and that he was going to be a nonconformist no matter what. But while he was laying there on his bed, thinking about surrealism and holding the magazine in one hand with the centerfold still closed, and his other hand laying free by his side, he was beginning to realize that being a nonconformist was going to be much harder than he had ever imagined. As he watched them roll the hospital gurney through the double swinging doors, he looked at his wife and then at his stepmom, and he thought about his daddy's favorite meal that together they had enjoyed just a half a day earlier. And as daddy could only eat a few bites of steak, and that would be the last solid meal of food that his daddy would ever eat in his life. And then he would pass away in a hospice bed set up in the living room across from an 8-foot bar with bar stools that had previously been where the head of the bed was now. And he thought about how all of this didn't have to be this way. And it was so sad that 2 weeks after his daddy retired, he went to the dentist, and the dentist sent him straight to the doctor. And the doctor, without preaching, told him frankly that his taste buds and feeling in his mouth had been lost over the years from drinking and smoking. And that had it not been for that, then he would have noticed the tumor as it developed. And that now was water under the bridge. And then the surgery came, and it was horrific how chest muscles were twisted and grafted into his daddy's neck and gums, and how it took months of recovery, and then it had to be done again, and how painful and difficult it was. And his daddy never showed his pain to his son or daughter-in-law or his grandchildren. And then there were his daddy's treatments and the adjustment to a liquid life that was nothing like the liquid life before. And then 2 years later, the pain in the lower back that began at Halloween and ended on New Year's Eve was a shock, but not a shock. And like repeats from earlier events, the phone call came at the time of morning that once again we knew was not going to be good news. And then came the 10 days of wakes and multiple visitations and services. And for the visitation before the final funeral, his mama even came from across the state with 3 of her girlfriends that she and his daddy had enjoyed times with together in an earlier life. And on that visit, he and his wife and his children were happy to see their mama and mother-in-law and grandmother. And then what we all thought would be the end began the next morning at the church and finished at the cemetery on that cold, dismal January day. But as always, some things never end, and the lessons of life don't stop when the flowers are placed on the grave and the tent comes down. He had learned about it from his new community of outsider lit friends, and although he couldn't relate to it at the time, now things were different, and he was beginning to believe that there were truths in their words, because now he was feeling something that he had never felt before. And as he would write his story, he realized that he was learning things about himself that he had never known, or had maybe suppressed in his mind. And since early high school, he had been inspired so much by Socrates' advice to know thyself. And now he is learning firsthand that no matter what age we may be, that we never stop learning about ourselves. And as he writes more and more each day, he is validating other things his friends said, Like the writing of his story doesn't end for the day or night when he puts his last word on the page, but the writing continues in his head, consciously and subconsciously, and doesn't go away. And then the next session begins, and he starts putting his words into the cloud, and he knows that those many writers who have been there long before him are thinking to themselves, grasshopper, oh grasshopper, there is so much more for you to learn. And that's the end of this section.
Keith, that was so good. It was so good. And you know, there there are times, you know, doing this thing where I get discouraged. You know, there are days, weeks even, where I'm like, why the fuck do I like why the fuck do I do this? Like, why do I like run this publication for no money? Why do I host these readings every week? And every time you read, I'm reminded of exactly why I do this. You know, there is just such like a sincerity and honest passion and real thematic power and beauty to your prose. It's been really remarkable and wonderful to see someone who really wasn't like a writer before they got involved in the community blossom into like an incredibly talented, like really skilled prose stylist and really incredible writer. So thank you, Keith. Thank you for sharing that. You, as always, you remind me exactly like what the value is in this shit we've been doing. You know?
Well, thank you, William. I appreciate it. We do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry. Keko is up next.
Hi.
Hey.
Originally, I just wanted to read the prose piece, but since it's my first prose piece in English and first prose piece in like 6 or 7 years, generally, I decided to read a couple of poems just to easen it up a bit. So it's first of all, I'll read the first poem I wrote in English, and then I'll read the prose piece, and then I'll read a couple of more poems because, as I said to you earlier, I probably won't be able to come this often in the near future because of my new probable job. So we'll start with the poem. I don't know. Did you link the poem or just oh yeah,
I linked both. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, my first poem in English is Smoke. A grey drunk with a sporty smile tells you about things that could be done. Actions, vivid images, because there's life in you and around, sharp colors forming an insult, but you're not a coward. A grey drunk buys you a drink. He insists he's buying the qualities that can't be unseen. A drink you can't hide. You're listening to a story. An entity brings comfort and old age. Smoke fulfills the room. It dims the colors, the smiles, contrasts, surplus, sprinkles ancient magic of one on all. You exit, fog, bliss on the path of a burning sun. So that's the poem, and yeah, I'll obviously read too much tonight, but I hope you won't. hold it against me. The prose piece is called Deliverance. And just a minute. In my room, there is this cool underground band from Japan, and they're jamming, and nude girls are dancing to the jam, and the MILF in the corner is trying to grab my attention by sticking naily fingers up her ass. But I can't get my eyes off the beheading that's happening next to her, and I can't decide which is grosser. I'm trying to get things done. I'm trying, but these defiant Latinas twisting to the jumps under the kitchen lamp, to the riffs on the table with winsome Slavic tree-hugging flowers that just stare along. I simply can't decide. I simply couldn't decide, but I'm trying to study, and oh, how I love Japan. Still free to be sick while we're only allowed to feel traumatized. I'm trying to master correction of pronunciation, to master that craft, to overcome the stepping stone of a class in this space where I raise my head only to step into water. The problem is that my obligations are tied to the internet. They are far less attractive than Japan, South America, Southeastern Europe. Right down there with an alienal MILF and the beheaded heretic. Or was he an infidel? Perhaps I still get to change the course and learn the language. I like the Sufis. Were they heretics? What happened to them? In my room there is this cool underground band from Australia, and they're hitting it hard. And the nude girls are coming and thanking me, while the Sufis are reading their poetry and flash fiction. I just can't decide, but my heart is full. My head is falling, so the room empties. Everyone off to their bed, happier and wiser than yesterday. My heart is full, and so are my lungs. My chest is heavy, back stiff, neck ossified. My head couldn't retain any information. It's bound to fail. I'm going to fail. Yes, my head is a failure. The chest, even heavier, keeps on growing, shades my head, squeezes my body, and usurps the whole of me. Obviously, I'm going to die. Out of the blue, a prayer materializes on my lips. What an embarrassment. An atheist praying, a coward. I'm the one who leaves his comrades in the battlefield. I'm the one who deserves nothing less than a bullet in the back. And I only remember the last thing I recall on my deathbed is Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Is this his will? Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but I'll never forgive my professors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. But if he is the one who made everything, who made the earth as he did temptation, why would I plead with him not to lead where his will is done? Why wouldn't I want to participate in his will? Am I your creation? Just deliver us from fucking evil, fucking cocksucking evil. So that's the end of the story, and I'm really sorry, but as it's too late and I'm a bit drunk, so I just stumbled. So just a minute. There are 3 more poems. The first one I'll read. I read it already, but it was off the record, so. I read it when I read the theory poems. William, you remember, but the rest probably won't. The first one is called a pig, a cockroach, and a lion walk into the drugstore carrying a sloth. The blinking light says, "Come here, boy," but I'm a bug, bumping into the screen, interacting. deprived of more interaction. Every tab is a mass grave of unknown toasts that never got a ball, a tit, a surprise bug, under different kinds of light. Kill the animal with pigs, leave no comparison to build on, discover color greens. I've been idling here like a damselfly waiting for nature's call to arms to pummel her wings until a dead faint. Like a woman blinded by the tragedy of death, of love, I've knelt unblinkingly in front of this blueness, a sudden analog sound. My neck crackles at the left obscurity, hurts to the right shades. Shouldn't I be alone here? My mouth is really dry, sorry. Watch them fly. They retreat to the self skies, hear the echo of baroque sighs. Be at peace, for they found the medicine, with better graphics and smoothies, their transition to the self skies. No glitch, no ditch, no, they don't have to pitch their existence. Listen to the wings withdrawing through the air, wave to tomorrow's elves. Defying gravity but polluted with porn of everyday chores, you cannot follow but with your senses, as they fade to the self skies. And the last one is Father to Son. Yeah, my mouth is really dry and I'm very sorry. Father to Son. The guitar flowed through my blood, but you weren't born when I was. I was born then, and back then, and way back when my mother was born, when my grandmother was born, when my great-grandfather was born, when tomorrow was born. In the back days, in the ancient dinosaur days, I sacrificed your soul and now you're dead. The Assyrian hordes fucked the death out of you and now you are dead again. But I didn't call them upon you. They just heard the guitar while you didn't. And that's it.
So these are all phenomenal as always, but I want to talk about that prose piece. I want to talk about that prose piece because that prose piece is amazing. Like, first of all, once again, this is something I've said about your poetry before, but this is true of the prose piece as well. You are one of the greatest writers about the internet, like, out there, in my fucking honest opinion, because like that first paragraph, long before the word internet shows up in that first paragraph, it's explicitly clear exactly what you're writing about, right? You're writing about a phenomenon that we've all experienced, which is like the intrinsic surreal seduction of the internet, the like desire to be in this world, in this real world, and to do something in this real world, but to be constantly tantalized and constantly seduced by the prospect of what you could be looking at on the internet, right? And that paragraph, if it was alone, would be a phenomenal piece of flash fiction. But the twist it takes in the second half, the deep spiritual fucking darkness of that second half, is something, frankly, that I did not in any way anticipate or expect from that first paragraph, but is so like thematically perfect and really, I think, elevates the whole fucking thing. And so, yeah, the poems are good. The poems are always good, but that prose piece was beyond spectacular. And also, I don't like to poach things for Misery Tourism here, and I'm sure you may have another outlet in mind, but don't forget us, man. Okay.
Thanks a lot. I thought that prose piece wasn't that good, so
It's very,
that's why
very
that's why I read all the poems just to kind of camouflage the.
I could
Yes.
tell. I could tell you were doing that. I could tell you were like
Yeah,
insecure about it, but you shouldn't be because it's really fucking good. It's among the best
Yeah,
things written, and I'm not fucking blowing smoke here or anything. It is honestly, I think, among the best pieces that you've read here.
uh,
And you
thanks a
don't have to
lot.
believe me. Look in the chat.
Okay, I'll look now. Yeah, thanks. I mean, yeah, because as I said, that's my first prose piece in English and like first prose piece in like 6 or 7 years. So thanks.
Oh, thank
Yeah, no,
you for sharing. Oh, sorry, Rudy.
the poem, the first poem you read, Smoke, I really like that one because I think I mentioned this about some of your other stuff, is it has that kind of interactive fiction quality to it. I don't know any other way to describe it. It just feels like someone taking actions, and the way it's structured is like you do this or like you. It's like from it's that second person type of narrative, and it's got that. I really love that about some of your pieces.
Well, thanks a lot. That's my first poem in English. So
Yeah, this is really good.
It was really good.
thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Gecko. Up next, oh, is Calvin with us? Did Calvin show up yet? If not, we'll move on and we'll circle back to him at the end of the night.
I don't see Calvin in the roster here.
Okay. Rick.
All right. This is completely coincidentally relates a lot to what Mark and Keith wrote, strangely enough. White Label. When I'm strung out and sleepy, stonewashed, payments due, I think far too much about asking you just why it is that you're so glad I'm near. No answers step forward. In their stead, the fear. No purpose, desire, or need draws me here. Your garden is tended, and its earth brings forth delights. You dazzle and defend your pilgrims with no smoke or mirrors. Your averted eyes choose their petals and hues with no regard for pickups or pollen. Small wonder the hive waxes, Bombus sonorus sees neither sees red shift blooms nor smells salted nectar. You cry to the heavens with no need for friendly fingers pointing towards strange remote gods. How many? Many. Take all apart. Sin mí todo está bien. Poor howler, clearly crippled, tail docked, bones badly set, bark and bite misaligned, fit for naught, but perhaps useful if rendered quiet? Let us mark and dart and cut and tan until he runs out of pants and slobber, until slick bony byproduct lays slack and unfastened, glass-eyed on the worktop, our coats newly patched with genuine hand-tooled leather. Oh, you're gonna wear that? These wonders and terrors lay upon my brow for all to see and sharpen their blades in preparation for skirmish and sally. The outposts are silent and empty. There is no map of this shaded valley. I must ask, even though the answer may flay all who hear it, ramming vessels of all flags and sailing them to the bottom, lecturing parent and child alike in gross anatomy, peeling back Y incisions and cracking rib cages, weighing organs but ignoring stops, falling past you on a gratitude owed to prior lodgers. How many times have I forgotten those who came and went before me? How many more must fall to keep me upright? What do I stand for? Anyway, is it worth dissecting and defiling what was old and good and darling and loved just so I can find myself? This, then, is the fear. That effort's a joke. Inspiration is futile, but pairs well with coke. Expiration's best hastened by a thick cloud of smoke. But then a key moves, just the right depth. And the knob turns just the right degree. And the world spins right round, baby. Everything, everyone, renewed, wild, displayed. Nothing wrong with the light as a new dawn fades. There, something that is, something that was, before pioneers and explorers, before you, before me, before Dolby Type. something that stays even though it is leaving, awake with convections and intervals greeting, crashing and singing and droning and ringing. No silence holds sway in the court of the shouting, no whispers escape us for all of our spouting. New stylus still scratching, receiver still routing, in search of a circular cosmic spot. Can't open the door, but it's getting too hot. Appiacere mano troppo. We buttress the timbers, we tend to our wounds, we burn oh so bright, but no longer consumed by spurious questions that never mattered to you.
Holy shit, Rick. First of all, that delivery was phenomenal. But this piece reminded me like a lot of two of my absolute favorite poets, which is saying something, and that's T.S. Eliot and John Berryman, right? And you've got Eliot's incredible knack here for having just a broad, like complete, like historical and spiritual scope to this thing. And the shifting voices, the way that Eliot kind of does it, where you can tell that like you've got all of these different characters packed like really efficiently and elegantly into this one poem. And for Berryman, there's one turn that the turn you make, the after the like really graphic couple of dissection like taxidermy stanzas, the oh you're going to wear that moment, like those kind of tonal shifts, and you have a few more of them in this poem, or like what Berryman did best, where he like gets you feeling a certain way and then it turns just like that, and you've got both here, and it's a really remarkable piece of writing, Rick. I think it's phenomenal.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
for letting
thank
me-
you. Up next. Oh, Gabe's up next. So Gabe,
Okay, I'll start by asking, is anyone here Evelyn Winters? You can make this real easy.
Yes,
Is it you, Rudy?
Yes.
it's me. Okay. This is an I'm Spartacus moment. So
wait, Rudy, is it you? I mean, I have to believe that it was you, Rudy. But it
no, it's
No?
not me.
it's not
Okay.
you.
But yes, it is me.
All right. So let's carry on. So this is going to be up at the Last Estate. What, Thursday? Will?
Yeah, I think Thursday seems likely.
Okay. I just kind of wanted to read it. I'm still chopping it up. We here at the it's called The Strange Case of Evelyn Winters. We here at the Last Estate have been inundated by a query of what our contributor policy is. If we would ever pull from outside minds to supplement our content, as if by dropping a new piece every day of our inaugural week, we were somehow offering doubt to our productivity. But it was fair enough question from one Jesse Hilson, the genre jumping, keeping everyone guessing author, commentator of prolific nature, when he asked how to submit, considering his top shelf quality output overflows. I made my lisp joke, the Last Estate, to prove that everyone is welcome here, as long as you can get past the armed guards. Who are the armed guards? Hilson asked. We all take turns, alternate while the others sleep. Yet this afternoon is a rare exception, where everyone is wide awake while someone hogs the shotgun, me, standing inside, fogging up the front window as I stick the rifle barrel through an old bullet wound in our wood paneling, waiting, wondering where it all went wrong, how Evelyn Winters could have actually gotten our address here, and what her or Tom Buckner's intentions were by sending us her full-length manuscript unsolicited. I won't allow the others to stand guard until we figure out how and who these people really are. Since I appear to be the one targeted, I feel like I should be the one behind the scope. About a month ago, I found myself on an email list I didn't willfully subscribe to. To be fair, not the oddest thing in the world when you're a writer, a reader, a mover, a shaker like me, who often acquires new strangers presuming I'll appraise their work, even when I currently can't sell my own fucking novel. It was the email list of Evelyn Winters, a writer whose name I vaguely recognized from lit mags where we may have appeared in tandem. Hi, Stephen King. Thanks for subscribing to the newsletter everyone's talking about, is how the first unwanted email addressed me, before it further devolved into a brief Q&A. Mainly to raise awareness, Winters had new pieces out in Maudlin House and Bear Creek Gazette that day. I don't have any internet, but I heard they're in there somewhere, was her last comment in this interview. A total nosedive intended to raise intrigue that Winters may live in the middle of nowhere with shoddy or no internet, even though some of us really, really live like that, man. I've smelled subpar performance art like this because it tends to reek. Thankfully, the second email was benign enough. A simple, quick link to her newest story, minus the wacky, kooky, one-sided fanfare of the first. But I heard from others, like Speak the Devil Hilson and Carter Mycroft, that they too were receiving these emails. It's not like we were shying away from eye contact to someone who couldn't read a room. Our eyes were just busy, rolling into the back of our skulls. Then Winters ramped it up with the introduction of Tom Buckner, a man who he claimed to live in her basement, who may or may not have been the one sending these emails. The third of which was just a link to a podcast featuring an interview with Buckner, whose voice's pitch shifted akin to someone in witness protection. In Create Collaborate's episode entitled Arson, Arms, and the Art of Bartering, Buckner hijacks this interview from host Jody Sperling, carrying on the intricacies of trading buckets of rusty nails for chainsaws between meandering ramble fluff about, well, nothing. Not unlike getting cornered at the gas station by a stray meth lab who's run out of projects. Buckner occasionally refers to Evelyn Winters as his significant other, but this episode is clearly the Buckner show, though we are confused why Sperling went to such lengths to track down, much less feature Buckner. However, goosebumps were raised towards the 45-minute mark, where he says he definitely did not burn down Odie Green's hardware store, aka the Great Calamity of 1991, where he says he definitely did not drop a cigarette in a pool of gasoline. What kind of fool would do that? Things could happen. When the host reminds Buckner that his car was right there when it happened, Buckner swerves into musing on firearms and property rights instead. You can shoot whoever you want whenever they come on your property. So if you come on my property, we'll see what happens. I don't want anyone knowing where I live, he says. Relatable, I think, as I gently massage my trigger finger with the trigger here. Though it's my neck that really needs work. It's cramping up since I refuse to move an inch from my guard post. We'll call it fear of missing out until they figure out what's really wrong with me. In the meantime, Tom, I know where you live because the package showed up here 2 weeks ago. I had just gotten back from the big city where I witnessed 2 people overdose on fentanyl in close quarters. One of them inside a nightclub, the other outside of another bar because downtown is simply suffocating. As a result, I may have been bringing that residual mortal dread home with me when I opened the mailbox, framing this odd parcel in immediate existential paranoia. But come on, from the return address of Tom Buckner in Cody, Wyoming is a full-length manuscript authored by Evelyn Winters entitled Everything Ever. Even stranger, while this was addressed to the house here, the proposed recipient is Ben Lurie, the Los Angeles author of Tales of Falling and Flying, which was published by Penguin. That's big time, so Lori isn't even in our scene, man. Stranger still, it's postmarked in Pesco, Washington, thousands of miles from Wyoming. Before I showed the packages to my housemates here at the last estate, I tweeted at Lori, requesting he messaged me, alerting him that there was some weird shit afoot. Prompt with his response, I presented him with the incongruence, complete with photos of the package. Well, this fits into the strangely similar emails I've been getting from that mysterious person. No idea why or how they got your address. I don't know. That person is very strange and unsettling, he said. Thanks for letting me know, though. It seems like a bipolar bit, I said, remembering similar untactful stunts I pulled when I was younger. The sole intention to make people feel uncomfortable. And yeah, I'm unsettled. Someone has the address to the last estate. I guess let me know if you hear of anything. Will do, said Lori. I unsubscribed from the emails, of which I never subscribed to begin with, and I've been worried ever since that it might set someone off. I call for a meeting with my housemates. We gather in the living room, sitting Indian style in whatever spots are piles of broken glass or mildewing newspaper, where I tell them everything, the emails, the vague recall of Winter's name. I play the weird podcast, then I show them the package. We chatter intermittently and with speculation until, wait a sec, says William. Rudy and I just accepted a piece from Evelyn Winters for Misery Tourism. We're publishing it next month. In that moment, assorted projections compel all 7 of us to stand erect, pointing fingers at one another like the Spider-Man meme. My left hand points to William and Rudy, who have yet to turn in their secret collaboration for the last estate. So I immediately suspect this is their infuriating meta attempt. My right hand points at Jake Blackwood, a born prankster whose voice cadence I realize sounds very similar to Tom Buckner on the podcast if he disguised it in an even lower pitch than his notorious baritone. Derek points at Unity, who is infamous for his multiple personalities writing under various alts. But every suspect immediately denies the accusations. Every accuser accepts the plea of stood ground. Hold on, where's Stuart fucking Buck, I say, totally forgetting that he's been in the kitchen making us cake for the meeting this whole time. Nope, not me either, I hear him holler from the ovens. It takes me a second to believe him, since this is also something that sounds like would come out of Bear Creek, but the collective's trust is among the last estate's most important virtues. But you know, I published something from Winters in the last issue of Bear Creek, he followed up, walking out of the living room, wiping his hands on his apron. This was getting aggressively vexing from my own falsely persecuted coven, whose only crime was the inability to provide all the answers for me the second I demanded them. The collective dove into their monitors for their own detective work. To further expunge their names from that suspicious hat, Williams suggests the piece may be AI generated, as the rhythm and usage seems akin to the clunky bot language we've read before, which opens up a whole other suspect, fucking Autocastrix. Not only were they supposed to be the 8th member of the last estate before they amicably bowed out a month ago, but I also interviewed them for my piece on AI generated fiction at Lit Reactor last October. But this too is debunked by raw editorial instinct. After revisiting some of Autocastrix's work, the work of Evelyn Winters just didn't read as sophisticated, not as writhingly witty as Autocastrix. To our emails, Will forwards the Evelyn Winters piece they're about to publish entitled Cynthia's Mug. The title alone freaks me out, raises my blood pressure. Not only does it share the namesake of my shadow casting ex, who is one of the only 2 people in this whole big bad world who I'm terrified of, even though I also sort of miss her, typical. But this mug she made in ceramics class happens to be the last thing I have left of hers. The sink is chilling, really. I speed read the piece, searching for clues to solidify my nostalgic paranoia, though nothing hits, pure coincidence, thank fucking God. Now I feel I need to take all the blame for this. It was my responsibility to get the last estate a PO box so our location could remain unporous. And last fall, I accidentally sent copies of my books out with our real return address. I checked my PayPal history though, and no one from Washington or Wyoming has bought a copy of Fallout from our asphalt hell. Then I blame the vinyl mail orders I fulfill for my band Joe weddings and my mind collapses. Our fans, their own sick, quivering web of deceit. Luckily, most Joe weddings devotees are too drunk to read, so those 2 sides of my coins are dismissed. Still, I still feel bad. I may have let the house down somehow, sharing our address willy-nilly. Some other reason I'm projecting, territorial with the house gun, the roiling gut feeling this all feels nefarious. So if anyone gets hurt first, it's going to be me, who will also shoot first. I decide to grow a pair and reply to one of the emails curtly. Hi, this is Gabriel Hart, and I have no idea how I got on this list, nor what the intentions were of receiving Winter's manuscript, or much more, how you got the address here. They responded immediately. Screenshot provided next Thursday. Even in, or maybe because of its playful tone, something about this was feeling more sinister by the second, like some real chain letter by Christopher Pike shit, or besides the ex who I mentioned, the other person in this whole world I'm terrified of is my first editor, who I have far more reason to avoid and guard this house from, whose name I'll withhold to avoid further descent and endangerment for him or I. Though I am alive and breathing, one could argue this man ruined my life, at least 7 years of it, back when I was just starting to take writing seriously. This man, who was brilliant and charismatic as much as he was diabolical and manipulative, was the sole reason my first novel was held hostage for nearly a decade. It began fortuitous. He was a fast-rising author who saw value in my work, demanding me under his wing, quickly becoming my liaison for a hot indie publisher who agreed to publish my book on his word alone. Gradually, like a frog in boiling water, I was pulled in his psychic vampire undertow, a bewildering gumbo of codependence, my fault, narcissism, domestic violence, embezzlement, drugs, his mother's tragic murder, and other things I've since blocked from my memory. Before I knew it, he had ingratiated himself into my life, moved himself in with me in Echo Park, turning my basement into a sketchy lair I was afraid to enter. He was the embodiment of entities I allowed to fly into me, one of the main living catalysts for me leaving Los Angeles for fear I would never get rid of him. The man who was supposed to be my conduit for the publisher, who he was also draining money, resources, and sanity from. During my first year of relative safety in the desert, after blocking him from my phone, I got a call from the editor's baby mama, a dear friend of mine. With a full report, he was involved in a 3-hour standoff with the police at the residence of another host he was playing parasite to, climaxing with him finally giving up their 4-year-old son to the cops through the small window of the downstairs apartment he had barricaded the two of them in, where he was howling psychobablic non sequiturs until someone finally called the pigs. He was 5150, and when they drew his blood, he tested positive for methamphetamine. Shocked but not surprised, I was almost impressed by how much he had damaged my own recognizance by then, when my own experience with that drug in my teens somehow fallen short to spot the specific red flag. Sadly, I was likely in denial, as he remained the one standing between my publisher and I, with all the edits of my book he'd been withholding, stalling the process with his own detours of de-evolution, which I made excuses for him to protect my own narcissistic ambitions. 6 months after the book was finally published elsewhere, my band Gel Weddings had a show downtown. As we set up to play, I nearly lost all my mojo when I saw a ghost across the room. The shell of the man who was once my editor, at least 80 pounds lighter, for better or worse. I told him to stop contacting me, so his appearance and subsequent staring at me across the room as he inched closer and closer into arm's length was a major breach. I marched to him, drunk on adrenaline. What the fuck are you doing here? Leave now. He argued he was just coming to see us play, that it was a public space, that everything was fine now because he said so. Then he launched into scolding me for mentioning him. I withheld his name, obviously, on a podcast after the host asked me why the book took so long to be published. I couldn't not vent about it, as his calamities had become part of the book's delayed history. Luckily, someone came in to break it up between us. Unluckily, my defenses came down again, and before I knew it, I was somehow apologizing. He insisted on buying one of my books, since edited by someone I trust, under the insidious presumption he was doing me another favor. Salvaging some fumes of compassion, I hugged him, wished him well, and he dipped, leaving a shaky but stubborn sense of resolution. 3 months later, I received horrible news from his baby mama again. After miraculously regaining joint custody of their son, it had been the editor's weekend with the boy. When it was time for her to pick him up, she began to worry when he wouldn't answer the phone. Concern tightened when she rang the door for hours. No one answered. She called the police. They break down the door, and the young boy is found alive with multiple incisions all over his body from a steak knife. Wounds most notable from the boy's bleeding mouth, where the editor had been performing rogue dentistry, convinced he would extract miniature hidden cameras that were surely implanted into his jawline by the police. Old habits die hard, but there's a place in hell for those who force the young into their struggle. I didn't need to hear any further to know he was on meth. As I know from firsthand experience, the whole hidden cameras in the human body bit is a mysterious shared hallucination among users. The editor ended up going to prison for child abuse, and while I wholeheartedly believe in rehabilitation, I selfishly pray for my own sanity. He's still in there. The good news is the young boy is happy, healthy, and has a fantastic, strong mother leading his way. Wow, get this, I hear William exclaim. I just read Evelyn Winters' bio on her piece we're running. All it says is, you'll never find Evelyn Winters. So Evelyn Winters, Tom Buckner, whoever, wherever the fuck you are, let it be known. We harbor no delusions of phantom hidden cameras in our anatomy, nor have we installed any state-of-the-art exterior ones at the last estate here. Bullets are faster than video, you know. But please be mindful of the potential temperaments of those you attempt to pull the wool over. Some of us have been through enough deception, blinded enough to stumble clumsily with loaded guns, unsure of our breaking point until, well, it's like I always say, sometimes you really never know someone until it's too late.
I'm so excited for Thursday. Now I need to clarify something just for the audience here. Large portions of this are true.
Yeah, you can't make this shit up. You can make some of it up, but you can't
I would even say there's more truth here than falsehood.
Mhm.
Gabe, while I'm thinking about it, remind me before this goes live on Thursday, I have to read through it and insert some links in because I
Oh yeah,
think-
I'll make a list for you too. I should.
yeah, because the
I'm just
misery
learning how to do
tourism
that.
piece needs to be linked, the
Yeah.
podcast and so on. Because I think like hearing you read this and hearing it straight, you could easily believe this is straight fiction, right? It's so
Right. Yeah,
but
the
there,
whole thing sounds like a bit, right?
it does.
And it's
But-
yeah, like I said on Discord the other day, I think, yeah, like writing it has given me a weird respect for Evelyn Winters and Tom Buckner and the whole thing.
And whoever they are.
Yeah.
So last, I'm gonna ask Gabe's question again. Is Evelyn Winters or Tom Buckner with us tonight? Steve?
Oh.
Steve?
I hope not.
I mean, I'm Evelyn Winters.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Someone in the chat said I was.
Well, who knows?
No, but I love that piece, Gabe, and the gun. I think, and the the performance of it definitely lends it some extra bonus credence. I think we need we need to get a picture of you with that as like the cover, not the cover image, but a picture to go in it. I feel that'd be awesome.
That's actually a great idea. If you could
Right.
take a picture with the shotgun.
Okay,
That's where like alt-lit feuds are headed, just like it's totally like Derek's Sam Pink piece is just it's totally pressing. Yeah, we're just gonna start posing with guns.
Fuck yeah. I think of it like a Huey Newton style like picture, like you sitting there with a gun and then like a fucking spear on the other hand or something.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Oh man, no, I'm so excited for Thursday. I'm so excited for the next couple of weeks of content. Actually, we've got some good shit coming up. Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you.
So,
Is
is Calvin with us? No, maybe Calvin couldn't make it tonight. I'm being told, Steve, you have another question. What's your question?
My question is what is that Thursday thing?
Oh, it's The Last Estate. Can somebody put the link to The Last Estate in the chat? It's a publication.
Okay.
And that Gabe's piece that he just read is going to be published Thursday on that publication. So we do not, if Calvin isn't here, we burned through, I think, all of our pieces for tonight because Jesse had also signed up, but must still be kind of feeling under the weather. So I am going to reluctantly open the floor to a brief open mic here. Does anyone have anything they want to read? If not, we can just move on to the after party or whatever straight away. But I will give people a moment if they've got a piece they want to share. Now's the time.
I could read a quick love story if you want.
Yes, John, let's hear it.
Hell yeah.
All right. Let me bring it up. And let me turn my camera on.
I found the link. Thanks.
Okay. I'll be quick about it. It's pretty short. It's like 700 words. This story is called Love of My Life. I found the thing stuck in a laundromat dryer. My attempts to grab him were futile. I received several bites. I was tempted to call animal control and have them cut the thing's head off, but only for a moment. I don't think human homunculuses can carry rabies, and I don't know what animal control would even do, and I don't know the number anyway. So I ran over to the corner store and grabbed some treats. I tempted him out with candy, strung him along on little pieces of cereal, all the way up to my 5th floor apartment. The elevator was out, but I wouldn't have taken it anyway. I didn't want to stand too close alone with this little thing. But at the same time, I was bringing it into my home. Maybe an elevator is more intimate than my bedroom, not that it was allowed in my bedroom. He stayed in the kitchen, slept in a cupboard, pooped in a tin can that I flung out the window every morning. I could have just flushed it, but it didn't feel right. The toilet is where I went. He went in a tin can. You don't get to dignify a tin can shitter by flushing it. You have to embarrass it like a cat. Not that cat's mind. Not that he minded either. I call him a he, but it could also be a her, but it's probably a them. I don't want to name him. What he is something. I think he's a homunculus human fusion, but I have a very thin grasp on the word homunculus. I'm not sure I'm even spelling it right. I could look it up, but I won't. He has a foot like a slug, a neck like a beanstalk, and a head just like any other person. It's a pretty head. So pretty, I think he might be a girl, but I've inspected him thoroughly, and I haven't found a single vagina. I haven't found a penis either. Not that I was looking for penises, though. I have to move it place to place. It moves too slowly, probably because of the slug foot. I set him somewhere, and he wobbles around like a punching bag, all lanky and top heavy, stuck to the floor. Not that I've ever punched him before. He's so pretty facially, but below the chin, he's disgusting, just all green slime. He has a tiny hole in his foot. That's his asshole and piss hole. Cloaca. Maybe he's part bird. I read a book once that dragons don't have assholes or piss holes or cloacas. They don't poop. The fire is their digestive system. Instead of taking a dump to get rid of their waste, they incinerate it in their bellies. Breathe it out in a cool fireball. Also, they eat gold. That's why they're always sleeping on big piles of it. That was a long time ago, though. Dragons have been extinct for a while. That's true. I read it in a book. Anyway, this homunculus thing isn't a dragon because he doesn't breathe fire, and he shits everywhere. Well, not everywhere, just in the tin can, but there's a lot of shit in it. Well, maybe not. I don't empty the can too often. It could be a normal amount of shit for a homunculus, but I don't know. I'm not a biologist. Sometimes I like to practice kissing it on the mouth. I think it's mostly gross, but it does have a pretty face. So sometimes I like to kiss it on the mouth when I get home. I don't know if I'm improving or not. I don't think it has vocal cords, and it hasn't given me much feedback. I'm thinking about wrapping it up in a little basket, like in those movies, and just having its head poke out and leaving it on some nun's doorstep or something. I think that'd be funny. And they'd pick it up and they'd say something like, "Oh, what a precious little baby." And then they'd take it in, thinking they were going to raise an orphan or something. And then they'd unwrap it, and it's a slimy homunculus. They'd probably scream, curse, and call it an abomination and stuff. That'd be funny. They'd all gather around, ruffling up in their big dresses and stomp it to death with their combat boots. That'd be cool. I haven't done that yet, but I might. I don't care either way.
John, first of all, I want to apologize. I caught it midway through. My mic was unmuted, so you could hear me laughing probably. I apologize for that. I did mute it when I realized it, but oh my God. I'm looking at the row of cameras at the top and everyone's losing their shit. This is like so like wonderfully like hilariously sick and inventive. And is this published somewhere? Where is this? Does this have a home right now?
No, it's just a rough draft.
Not that William likes to post things from
Not that, and certainly, I mean, it'd be unprecedented for me to try to poach two things in one Misery Loves Company, one short Misery Loves Company that also featured a piece that we're publishing on another site I'm affiliated with. I don't, but John, if when you're thinking of publications, when you're thinking of a home for this thing, Misery Tourism pops into your head, I mean,
it could find its way in a certain email address, I guess.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I mean, we have, it's perverse, sick fantasy shit. And like, that's our jam, man. But anyway,
It's our jam.
So much. That's our jam. I'm getting silly here. Thank you so much, John, for
Wait,
sharing.
I have a question for John. Did you ever find a home for that that kind of John Waters piece you read?
No, I still haven't. I'm still
Like 50s, the kind of 50s
Oh,
piece.
let's see, the frog one?
No, it was the really exaggerated like 50s kind of piece where it was like
Like the high school piece.
yeah, the guy was
Oh.
all
Yeah.
oh yeah, I guess it was
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought 50s, but just like the don't fuck my girlfriend.
Dude, I better not catch you fucking my girlfriend.
I haven't been able to stop thinking about that.
That was so amazing.
I'm
Uh,
sorry.
Have you found a home for it?
No, I haven't yet. No.
I want to be like your agent and try to place that piece for you. It's too good.
Thank you. I-
Thank you,
Geez,
John.
Thank you.
That was Stephen Miller. I remember the protagonist was Stephen Miller.
Oh, right.
No.
I'm with you, Gabe. That's been
the
echoing
hardest
around
I've
my
laughed
head.
in a month, I think. We're
Yeah.
laughing.
Yeah, I remember.
So, so thank you, John. Adam has a piece, and then after that, I think we'll probably wind down and close up shop for the night. So, Adam.
Thanks, William. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
All right. This is called The Bedroom Without Guns. Cigarette, sea swamp root for fizz, because my parents, who are not entitled, moved into a house in 1985 under discreet stardust ramblings from Fargo. They was rookies, free spirits into a new city that did not roll out its red carpet, not yet anyway. So my dad had his pistol, but sold it for food, and my mom made a garden from all of which we ate, except Black Maria, who walked over to the pond and went down to Davy Jones' locker one fine day in June. It was in fact when I learned that my bedroom's prior tenant and the like was a boy older than me by 3, spirited elsewhere in town by naughty parents who moved too much, only bigger and better. Of course, it was some kind of racket his dad was on and related to the March of Dimes. Sex and deceit go a long way in suburbs that are most becoming in summertime, such as they are, and I had my own room, which not all can declare before customs or in leather booths tied. There was in my room a most appropriate recommendation from High and Mighty that we should rip the wallpaper from its vantages banner high. An assortment of football players in caricature, all illuminated in star pages and hopping across fences from faded boogies, though not really, so of course I was inclined to the non-sec. That's the boy's ghost. Remained in the room, though not like that. He wasn't in the carpet. He was across town, such as I said, and the like. You have to hand it to someone. The boy from my room was a couple years my elder, so mom wrapped me in gauze and pushed me down a hill until the years passed by in skate parks, Jinko freaks, airing Sharpies, and Pac Sun reveries. We were all baked to occasional hydro, but mostly swag. And I jerked it like a pendulum between Howard Stern nudes on E and still frames of Emilio from Dangerous Minds, my prince. Around years of freshman, there was a custom and procedure for marks and bitch-ass marks, and those of us regular to intake diets of fights, so as to assuage our proclivities for boy romps in vacant parks, which set forth a most apropos set of circumstances, anent fight, fight, fight. And the tin drum rumbled and fists flew we knew not which way at first, just casual garage brawls. But then the more serious of the variety that called fruit wagons and sutures and the fucking like. There was that one time we set a Winnebago on fire, unoccupied, and the flames went ram bam, and we followed it with orange Julius's and hissing at old ladies, while Blank turned a trick in the buckle, but I've lost his portraiture and he is now dead. Dad had a paper belly and a loud mouth, so I was always on the outside of social circles and getting mowed down by listless seafood subwiggers and goyim rats with straight hair who would turn pale face at the sight of a bong. And X was said to Y, and the fight was planned and calendared most celebratory and not at all glossed over. King Shit had his maroon caddy in which were piled a bevy of mixed race, and Blondie had his Buick Riviera from which jumped the most horrendous of male harems, who were part of the mad park shouting scene for fights, but Y didn't show, so the road people hustled to his lair, at which the oak was pounded upon desperately until Y exited with dueling pistols, most likely from a paternal nightstand. And it was discovered by yours, etc., that Y was the boy from my room all those years before when my parents were on the rims, but not unusually, so Y is in his yard making no noise by pointing his guns in our faces. His fingers wrapped around the black grips like warm milk. In retrospect, I wish he'd have killed me. He was beautiful, mesmeric, a bowl cut dream in technicolor, and dangerous. I was a teen, hormonally rocket shipping beneath his death sentence affect. But I didn't know myself, and everyone backed up and he disappeared, and I went home and crawled into his bed in his old room. Now, years later, I'm an alcoholic police officer and plasma donor with suicidal ideation, but of course I'm holding off on plans until the maturity of my pension for the sake of a wife who talked to me one time last year. Once in a while, I go home to my old room to feather my nest of memories. I open the closet, cry in it. Is that jacket still here? The sound of a prefab folding door from 1982, but everything is gone. I know this in advance. That's it.
Oh my fucking God, Adam, that was riveting. I mean, as usual, like your word choice here is so inventive. Like the prose is so rich and varied, but this piece like has a really incredible emotional heft to it, and all of that like unique wordplay and all of the like you know crazy wild constructions here are like in perfect service to like this human being's like complete emotional decline and unraveling. Is really fucking good, Adam. It's fucking awesome.
Thanks, William. We appreciate
Yeah.
it.
No,
Yeah,
thank you.
So good. I like some of the wordplay, like William said, but one that got me was an X was said to Y. Really like that line. That was so good.
Yeah, I think so many high school fights can be encapsulated with something like that because it's meaningless.
Yeah, it's all math, all meaningless math equations. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Thanks,
So
guys.
I've had a couple of last minute jump-ins here. Literator Enjoyer, did I get that right? Has some poems. And Rudy, you have something after that?
Yeah, just a short thing.
Cool.
Yeah, I have 4 short ones here.
Oh, wait a second. Is this GG?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I just wanted, yeah, whatever. So I've been writing poems about the grocery store. So here are 4 quick poems about the grocery store. The first one is called Egg Yolks. Witness arrogance incarnate when someone pisses their mouth about runny yolks. We conquered the chickens. There's no reason to gloat about how we treat their eggs. The second one's called Half Asian at the Asian Grocery Store. My tiny jet fighter crash lands. The kerosene smell gives me an erection. I put hot garlic shrimp chips into my cart. The chorus of Sweet Home Alabama blasts 150 decibels on loop. My eyes reflect blazes set to towns, set to people. The third one is most crimes are committed when someone has low blood sugar. I make each eye of my local politicians look down the barrel of a 12-gauge shotgun until they agree to make fruit juice flavored sour gummy snacks freely available at every post office and grocery store. Here's the last one. Arriving back home after going to the Korean grocery store. I could eat the neighbor's dog, but I have bags full of groceries. I would never eat the neighbor's dog. That's all I got.
GG, are we seeing the birth of your next collection here? Because you read 4 poems last time, I think, and you read 4 poems this time. And there's a synergy between all of these poems that you've read. Like, there's a real, I think, sense of, I mean, there's a unity to like most of the poetry you write, but I feel like we're witnessing something coming together here. Are you working on your next collection?
Yeah, I have nothing better to do. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, I feel like there's some similarity here with this, right? But these ones
I think so.
seem a little bit more like maybe maniacal is the right word. I don't know. They're a little bit darker. They're a little bit more surreal. And they're a little bit nastier, I think.
2
but
years
still
by
very
yourself
funny.
warps your brain in a bad way. I don't recommend it.
Thank you, Gigi. Those kicked ass. So, oh, you know what, Rudy, before you go, I saw Jesse jump in, and I know he had signed up to read.
Yeah.
So I just want to I don't know if he's feeling up to it or if he wants to wait until next week, but
No. Why don't I just wait till next? I don't want to just jump in and wait till next week. I'm just here to watch.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
just gonna listen.
I was gonna say you can absolutely take my space because I wasn't gonna.
No way.
Read them quick.
I'll go next time. Thank you.
Okay, Jesse, I'll put you on the docket for next week. Rudy, so you're the end of the show here tonight. Let's see what you got.
Okay, so I want to teach a lesson because I understand that there's some people here who don't believe the N-word should ever be said ever, and certainly would never say the N-word. So I want to, well, I can either read a poem that may use that word, or I can read a poem about beating a dog to death.
So is this a poll?
I don't honestly.
Got so
So for context, he's allowed to say both of those things, but especially one of them.
Yeah, 'cause
Especially when-
Rudy's a gamer.
but-
Rudy's
yes.
a gamer. He makes video games.
We won't say which one though. We won't say which.
So do we want? Is this a vote situation? How are we?
Oh, I don't know.
Which of the so do we want the N-word poem or do we want the dead dog poem?
It's Black History Month, right?
I mean, I don't know.
Blick has a point.
Yeah.
Blick has a point.
And it's Black History Month, man.
It is Black History Month, man. I don't know. Yeah. Boy, I think we got to go with the N-word one then.
Okay. All right, Rudy.
This is a poem loosely based on League of Legends, like many of my poems are, and it's about going against the champion that I really dislike playing against and getting very frustrated. It's called The Sinister Blade. Good luck and good wishes. Oh, and your skin it's so nice. And I hope your dog with cancer improves. A choice. My mood ring, your new ballerinas, some wine coolers to imbibe / self-medicate. A totem each for our Sambo's benefit mostly. Now the clash. It's a ballroom dance, really. Dip me, I'll twirl you, heels overhead till sped away to help subdue dragons. A minor tiff, not a problem. Fuck me, I'll rape you hand over fist till you run for mother's skirts. Coward. In an arm wrestling contest, the stronger or more tactical wins, but your elbows off table, spit in my face, wiggling Jim Brown shit. A poke in the eye, sir, while the league looks the other way. How did you wind up behind me? You were a downright piece of, I mean, damn. It's to the point where even my bottom bitch, who says nothing but positive thought terminating cliches, will remark, there's no way in hell we can do this one. A snowball rolled into an avalanche. You rush to echo all the pros. There's always a counter. Good night, and don't pat yourself on the back. Oh, and your demeanor was positively toxic. Blame shift. And fuck your nigger mother. The end.
Rudy, I have a question. Did we publish this one on Misery Tourism, or is this one of, or was this one never published on Misery Tourism?
This one is from my collection, Steampunk Elements. Which is available for free on Misery Tourism through a link. Yeah.
Well, there you go. No, I love this one. I don't know. All of your poetry, you know, you've heard me talk about your poetry before. This one, like, I don't know. I love the thought whispers, thought terminating cliches line a lot. And I love the way that you turn like the vicious nastiness of low rage into something like palpable and real and poetic. Yeah, it's good. It's a good one, man. It's a good one. And what perfect way to end the night. I mean, I can't think of any better words to end the night on than what you said.
I think of the Doom Bombers, he'll just scream out that word.
So before the kid says that word and we all get in deep fucking trouble, I think we're gonna end it there for tonight. I'm gonna leave the Zoom meeting open for a little bit as usual. But that's it for Misery Loves Company. Thank you everyone who read. This was a really great, fun night. A lot of Absolutely amazing pieces, Red. If you're watching this on YouTube and they haven't taken this video down, which they might, yeah, we do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We tweet out the link beforehand at Misery Tourism. Yeah, that's it. That's fucking it. We're done. Have a good night, everyone. Have a good weekend.